themselves public enemy number one, or PENI. And investigators warn this group, learning from the mistakes of other white supremacist gangs, are emerging as a public threat. Chris Blackford is here with more. Chris.
And law enforcement authorities believe PENI, with their roots in the streets, are now positioning themselves as a criminal force inside prison walls. And as we see in this Fox Undercover report, cops say PENI violence can already reach from prison yards to neighborhood streets. Investigators say it was ordered from inside prison walls. A prison-based hit. And according to court papers obtained by Fox 11, Donald Mazza is the man who was given the mission to murder. Racial loyalty tattooed on his chest. He is the reputed president of a white supremacist gang called PENI, or the PENI Death Squad. And when this heavy metal door at Wasco State Prison cranked open in April of 1999, inmate Mazza, known as Popeye, was released on parole. Detectives say within 5 hours of his release, Popeye was back in Orange County, seated inside a camper smoking methamphetamine with 2 accomplices and the hit victim, a gang dropout named Billy Ray Austin. According to this felony complaint, Dominic Rizzo, another PENI parolee, beat and held Austin as Popeye plunged a knife into him over and over again. Then, Popeye turned to witnesses and said, "Want some too, punk?"
This particular group has a very great potential for violence and are pretty much unpredictable when that violence may occur.
Correctional Officer Wes Harris says, here at the Wasco State Prison, investigators first started noticing PENI in 1996. And Fox 11 has learned an interesting chain of events led up to that. It started decades ago with members of the Aryan Brotherhood, or AB, the gang of gangs among white supremacists. Led by convicted killer John Stinson, the AB are locked away in special units at maximum security prisons like this one at Pelican Bay. This white supremacist ex-convict explains it simply.
I don't know if too many ABs walk in the yard because ABs are all locked down and they don't have any physical contact with anybody.
With AB lockdown, that gave rise to the Nazi Lowriders, or NLR, another white supremacist gang that started running the prison yards in the 1990s and calling the shots for white Nazi gangs out in the streets.
They're straight killers. The lowriders are killers. They're like a rattlesnake. You walk across their shaded area and they're just liable to strike you without much of a warning at all.
And without much warning at all. In January of 1999, the NLR was snake-bit itself. The Department of Corrections named NLR a prison gang, and its members, like the Aryan Brotherhood, are now locked down in special security cells. And that has opened a prison door for PENI.
We are getting intelligence that they are stepping up to take the place of the Nazi lowriders from the main line.
And other law enforcement sources tell us Popeye Mazza, Dominic Rizzo, and Devlin Gazoo Stringfellow are all PENI shot callers who have formed alliances with bosses in the NLR and the AB. All still embrace their white supremacist philosophy.
100% to the bone. If you ain't white, you ain't right. And that's how it is.
But law enforcement intelligence obtained by Fox 11 says PENI are now modeling themselves into a more seasoned prison gang. Their main goal now is to profit from drug sales.
I saw it for $125 an 8-ball. Wow.
Especially methamphetamines.
It's a white man's drug.
Not only out here on the street, but here inside prison walls. In fact, cops say PENI wants to increase its control of all criminal activity by white inmates.
They are under directives when they're paroled to start building a cell of members from their area.
This correspondence intercepted by law enforcement talks about PENI expansion into Riverside County. The PENI letter says, "We're like gods up here." The area, he adds, is ripe for a PENI yuppie squad. In Ventura County, police intelligence reveals a PENI alliance with the murderous gang Skinhead Dogs. Additionally, State corrections officials have PENI members in custody from Sacramento, Redding, Los Angeles, Shasta, Kern, and Orange counties.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Hope you guys are having a good day. I want to give a shout out. I had a comment from one of my followers from a couple videos ago that I did. He said, hey, check this story out. A guy by the name of Devlin Stringfellow went by Gazoo. He was considered one of the founders, all right, of Public Enemy Number One, or PENI, as some folks refer to them as. They're a very, very well-known skinhead gang, a racist skinhead gang, originated in California. We're going to be reading a quick, very brief history from the Anti-Defamation League. I did a video on their main founder, a guy by the name of Donald Popeye Mazza. I get a lot of comments. It seems like when I cover these skinhead groups, these white supremacist groups, I get a lot of very aggressive, often negative feedback saying, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just going to read a quick, brief history on Public Enemy Number One. Then we're going to be going to the Stringfellow's murder. And they're going to be talking about the two guys that killed him have quite a rich history of their own. And the big rumor on this was, and the person that commented on my video that told me to look the story up said, basically they think it was an Aryan Brotherhood hit, that an AB hit was put out on Stringfellow. And not saying that these guys were Aryan Brotherhood members, but that they might have been prospecting, trying to be in the good graces. Nothing's for sure, but it definitely seems to look that way. The two guys that actually murdered Devlin Stringfellow were a guy by the name of Jacob Kober and Stephen Dunkhurst. But first, let's read a quick, brief history on PENI, Public Enemy Number One. Public Enemy Number One is an unusual hybrid of a racist skinhead gang, street gang, and a prison gang. Since the early 2000s, the group has grown considerably, particularly in California, where it originated and has also spread to nearby states. PENI's increasing strength stems to a large degree from its ability to position itself as a white power criminal organization, capable of operating both on the streets and in the prison yards as foot soldiers for older, more established white supremacist prison gangs such as the AB. Heavily involved in the drug trade, PENI members have a strong history of violence, both in the prisons and on the streets. In addition to drug-related criminal activity, PENI members have committed a number of violent crimes, including assault, murder, and attempted murder. The group's mercenary and criminal nature, coupled with a white supremacist ideology and a subculture of violence, makes it a triple threat, both to law enforcement and to the public at large. I like the basketball reference there. Even people far removed from the worlds of narcotics and gangs may become victims to the PENI through white-collar crimes ranging from fraud to counterfeiting to identity theft. These guys are doing it at all levels. Basically, it just gives a quick profile. Leaders: Donald Reed Popeye Mazza. Formed by white youths active in the punk music subculture in Southern California in the mid-'80s. The group quickly divided into two camps, one emphasizing white supremacist ideology and the other criminal activity. The current leadership steered the group into criminal operations in and out of prison. Like I said, they're a hybrid racist skinhead, street gang, and prison gang. Ideology, white supremacy, and they're affiliated with the AB. So it all makes sense. White, for whatever reason, Stringfellow was deemed no good, or he did something that they said, hey man, this guy's got to go. They got, they got Kober and Dunkhurst to do it. And, before you know it, you got a pretty interesting prison murder story. God, I'm sorry, guys. I got something in my throat. But really quick, I'm going to read this article. This attack happened at California State Prison, Sacramento. And this is an article from the CDCR's press release, January 12th, 2018. A prisoner slain by fellow white inmates at a California prison was a founder of Public Enemy Number One, a white supremacist prison and street gang. Law enforcement and watchdog groups confirmed Friday. Devlin Stringfellow, who went by Gazoo, age 48, helped start the group known as PENI, which grew from the Southern California punk music scene in the 80s into what the Anti-Defamation League calls a hybrid racist skinhead gang. And I'm sorry, if you hear little feet behind you or shaking, that's my little dog behind us. Sorry about that. Stringfellow was stabbed repeatedly in an exercise yard Wednesday by two other prisoners armed with inmate-made weapons, said Lieutenant L.A. Quinn, a spokesman at California State Prison, Sacramento. He identified them as Jacob Kober, 29, and Stephen Dunkhurst, 49. No charges have been filed, and experts could not immediately say if they are gang members. Quinn said officials didn't have a motive. All members of PENI were previously made members of the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang, said Matthew Buchner, a former gang investigator with the California Corrections Department. So I did not know that. I'll be honest, that's my first time reading that. It's really interesting. I feel like Man, I feel like there's something that couldn't be maybe accurate about that, but if someone knows more, feel free to comment down below. Stringfellow was the second highest profile gang leader slain at the max security prison east of Sacramento in recent years. We've covered this other one, Hugo Yogi Pinelli, 71. He was the one that had done a ton of time in solitary confinement, finally got into GP or out at least in the general population. I don't know if he was in some sort of SNY or protective custody or something like that. But regardless, he got around other inmates and he was immediately killed. Not immediately, but you know what I mean. A purported member of the Black Guerrilla family was slain in 2015 after he was freed from decades in isolation following a bloody escape attempt at San Quentin State Prison in 1971. Pinnell denied his gang involvement. Bucher and Stringfellow had been a target of fellow gang members for years. He was a loudmouth, and the Aryan Brotherhood does not want attention, Buchner said in an email. Its members lure targets into thinking they are safe, then strike as violently as possible to send a message to enemies and membership to stay in line. Stringfellow had been in and out of prison repeatedly since 1991, mostly on drug and weapons charges with added time for engaging in gang activity. He was set to be released in 2020 after completing a 6-year sentence on drug, weapons, and assault charges, so your typical run-of-the-mill gang charges. His attorney in that case, Nima Fardahi of the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office, did not return telephone messages Friday. It's like the joke is like, of course she didn't, right? Because she's probably got 500 other people she's defending. So it's not like she's not doing it because, hey, we don't want to comment. It's like, Nima don't give a shit what's going on, man. She's got so much case overload. Just a little joke there. Kober is serving a life sentence for a 2012 Alameda County murder. Dunkhurst was initially serving a 3-year term for a Shasta County robbery, but now has a life sentence for vehicle theft, and a weapons conviction. Internal gang slangs are not uncommon, said Joanna Mendelson, a senior investigative researcher in the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, who was among those identifying Stringfellow as a PENI founder. The movement is characterized by paranoia, infighting, and violence, both directed against enemies as well as even their own members, he said in an email. Putting a hit on their own brothers is not uncommon. Okay, now we're going to get into Dunkhurst's background. And I don't know if you guys remember or not, but Kober, the other individual who was basically said to have killed Stringfellow, we did a video on his prison murder. It's crazy how things go around. And the more of these I do, the more I realize I literally have done a handful of these stories where I cover a story on an individual getting killed in prison, which in this case, Kober, I did his video a couple months ago. And now I'm doing a video on a guy that he killed while in prison. It's just, the cycle is insane. But this is Dunkhurst. This is Stephen Dunkhurst's background, okay? And this is basically a murder that he was involved in, like another prison murder that he had committed. California State Prison at Sacramento. So he committed multiple murders at this California State Prison, Sacramento. Just gives you another idea of how violent and crazy the California prison system is at this point. Officials are investigating the death of an inmate as a homicide after he was attacked by 2 other inmates. On November 25th at approximately 2:45 p.m., staff saw inmates Joshua J. Dunn and Stephen Dunkhurst attack another inmate on the Facility B General Pop Yard. Officers immediately responded and all inmates on the yard were ordered to get down. When Dunn and Dunkhurst ignored the command, officers used pepper spray and blast grenades to stop the incident. Responding staff summoned an ambulance for the injured inmate and provided life-saving measures. However, the victim was taken to a prison central health services building where he was pronounced deceased at 3:25 p.m. Dunkhurst then, of course, what do they do next, guys? They put him into segregated housing until they go, okay, you're ready to come out, and then they're going to go kill somebody again or maybe get killed themselves. Dunkhurst was most recently serving a life with a possible parole sentence from Shasta County for a February 27, 2005 vehicle theft as a third striker. He received an additional 6-year sentence on October 17, 2005 for a June 4, 2005 in custody offense, possession, manufacture of a deadly weapon by a prisoner. On August 18, 2010, Dunkhurst received an additional life with parole sentence in Kings County for an in-prison offense, assault by an inmate serving a life term. So this guy is a habitual violent offender. He will kill you is what that means. Excuse me. On November 17th, 2011, Dunkhurst received an additional 2-year, 8-month sentence in Kings County for resisting deterring officer with threat or violence and removal of a weapon from a peace officer, both in prison offenses. Dunn was received from Sacramento County on October 3rd, 2017. He was sentenced to 4 years for first-degree burglary, vehicle theft as a second striker, and second-degree burglary as a second striker. And Dunn again. Joshua Dunn, another one of Dunkhurst's co-defendants in a different prison killing. So these guys are AB members, associates, whatever you want to call it. These guys are all under this white supremacy flag, and they are they're violent and they're going to kill each other. They're going to harm each other. You get out of line. They get told to do something. They're not even going to hesitate. They're not even going to blink. They will kill you. No questions asked. Jacob Kober. Now, his background's really interesting. Like I said, we covered his prison murder. And we went into, I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail. You guys can go check that video out. We already talked about his prison murder. But he was convicted back in like 2013 for a 2012 killing of, I put his picture up, his victim's picture up next to, of Jacob Kober's. He was a good friend. This guy was a very good friend of Kober, and he killed him at a golf course. And his friend's name was Kenneth Robert Ogden. Guy had a family, a girl, a kid. I'm sure was involved in some street stuff if you're hanging out with a guy like Kober, but regardless, did not deserve to die the way he did. That was in Livermore, California. But we're going to be reading from a brief article about Jacob Kober's death. And this is an article from September 22nd, 2024. A Bay Area man was killed last week in a Central Valley prison where he'd been serving a life sentence for murdering a close friend, officials said. On Thursday, guards at Kern Valley State Prison found Jacob Kober unresponsive and suffering from, quote, serious injuries in the cell that he shared with Matthew Perez, authorities said in a statement. Kober, 35, was pronounced dead half an hour later after he failed to respond to medical treatment, authorities said. Perez, 39, who was suspected of killing Kober, was taken to an outside hospital to be treated for wounds of his own, officials said. Both Kober and Perez had injuries that authorities called consistent with an incarcerated manufactured weapon. That's literally like a fight to the death in that case. So it looks like Perez probably had the weapon, but if you've watched Dateline, watch content like mine, 48 Hours, you know when you're trying to stab somebody, the knife can slip a lot. It's not like the movies. The knife don't just go in and out like that. It is a very brutal, vicious way to either kill somebody or, of course, to be on the receiving end of that knife. Perez was sent to prison in 2012 to serve 18 years for assault with a firearm and a gang and gun enhancements. He has since been sentenced to serve another 8 years for assault and 2 years for possessing drugs in prison, officials said. An investigation into Kober's death is ongoing. Kober had been serving a sentence of 80 to life for murdering a high school friend, according to an appellate decision that summarized testimony at his 2015 trial in Alameda County Superior Court. Kober suspected that his friend, Kenneth Robert Ogden, was sleeping with his girlfriend. Okay, I mean, I get confronting somebody, maybe beating them up. But you don't butcher somebody. I'm sorry. You just don't. You dump the girl. You say F it to your friend, and you move on with your life as a grown man. Ogden, who previously dated Kober's girlfriend, also accrued a drug debt of several $100s to Kober, according to the appellate decision. So yeah, obviously Ogden is not completely clean in this, but again, you don't kill him. The night of December 28th, 2012, Ogden went to a house in Livermore where Kober sold meth and marijuana. The home abutted a golf course. After Kober and Ogden walked onto the course, a neighbor recalled hearing 3 pops. Shot him 3 times. The next morning, a jogger spotted Ogden's body on the fairway on the 4th hole, and he'd been shot in the arm and through the chest. So, yeah. But I want to go back to our main thing. That's Devlin Gazoo Stringfellow. This guy is one of the founders of PENI Death Squad, a very infamous skinhead organization. And I just want to make this clear, guys. I like the conversation. I like talking with you guys. It's just when I did a video on Donald Popeye Mazza, man, I got a lot of... And I'm not opposed to somebody saying, hey, man, you got this wrong, But I was getting comments like, you got no effing clue. I was there in 1984 at this particular rock concert. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. What do you want me to say to that? Okay, thank you for the comment. Like, I'm not going to argue with you on it. I'm just going off of what I read in court paperwork, press releases, numerous press releases, numerous court paperwork, numerous facts of the case that align. Are there inner workings and inner things and details that no one's ever going to be privy to unless you were there in person? Sure. But the facts are the facts at the end of the day. Now, again, there might be other outliers and other factors that I don't know about, but I just want to put that out there, because I remember posting that video, and man, it was an absolute it was a free-for-all in that comment section. But anyway, there you guys have it. Let me know what you think. At the end of the day, one of my takeaways from this, Aryan Brotherhood, man, they run the show where they're at. If they want you dead, you are dead. That's just kind of the easiest way to put it. And lastly, because you hear about the Kober and the friend and all that and killing somebody, talk about sobriety a lot on this channel. And that's just another example, guys. You got to see a guy like that, Ogden, his buddy. And I just said I wasn't going to talk about it, but you know what? It's an opportunity to bring it up. You got a guy there you can see, I saw a picture where he's with his girl, his kid, but he's still struggling with substance abuse. He's still struggling with other things. And he goes to an old high school buddy's house thinking he's going to buy some dope, maybe get high, go walk around, whatever they're going to do, smoke cigarettes probably. When I was using that was my thing. If I was on uppers, I'm going to be smoking some cigarettes. But if you know, you know. The green pack of Cools, maybe the Marb Smooths, the blue pack. Comment down below what's your favorite kind of cigarette. But regardless, all jokes aside, get the help. It's 100% better. I'm standing in my house right now doing this video, and I bump into people, man, a lot from my past that I see, and I see where they're at, and I don't look down on anybody. I don't judge anybody for anything that anybody's done. I'm the last one that can do that, but there are times where I thank God that I chose to get sober. Truly chose to get sober, and I just think it's worth it. I just think if you take one day at a time, the beginning's definitely hard. And life happens. It doesn't mean good things and bad things still aren't going to happen. Doesn't mean life's not going to get hard. People die. People get sick. Breakups happen. Job loss happens. You get in a fight with coworkers. You have stressful situations. Life still occurs even after getting sober. It's not like everything just is perfect forever. But when you're sober, especially for long periods of time, you're more mentally and physically equipped to handle things, guys. So just my thought for the day. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.